Hi everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we will be completing in today's video. If you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that is something you are interested in, go ahead and subscribe. Otherwise, before we get started, the only thing that you will need to do is download the color palette and the special wood grain brush that we'll be using in the video today. They're totally free to download. I have them linked in the description below. For the color palette, just double tap the file that downloads and it'll automatically pop the color palette into Procreate for you to use the same colors as you follow along with the video today. For the brush, you will go into your brushes menu and then click the plus icon in the top and then click import and find the brush wherever you downloaded it, and then that'll import the brush so that you can use it as well. If you need any more help with that, go ahead and search up some quick tutorials or guides online to help you out. So take some time to go and do that and then come back and we'll get started. First things first, we will go over our canvas dimensions. They are 10 inches by 10 inches at 300 dpi. The color profile that I have it set to is the second one on the RGB list. And for our layers today, we actually use about 30 layers, so quite a few more than usual. So you can check how many layers you have available here. Make sure you have at least 30. If you do not and you need some more layers, you can lower your DPI a little bit here and then keep checking until you have enough. And then we will just go ahead and click done. This is the color palette that we have, lots and lots of colors today. But we are just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So the first thing that we'll do is set our background color. So go to your layer menu, click on the background color layer, and click on this first color on the color palette to fill it in. Next, we are going to jump straight into drawing our cabin. So to do this, we are going to use the Symmetry Tool. It's going to put our cabin directly in the middle and it's going to give us the nice triangular shape. So we will be on layer 1. We are going to turn on symmetry, so go to the gear icon, turn on the drawing guide, then click edit drawing guide, click symmetry, and you should see a vertical line. If you do not, it's under options. Make sure that it is set to vertical. Make sure that you can see your line by changing the color up at the top and then go ahead and click done. Go back to your layer menu, make sure that this layer says assisted now. That means that symmetry is turned on for this layer. Go to your color palette and grab the second color on the first row. And we are just going to go ahead and set our brush to the monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. I am going to set this to 50 to 60%, somewhere in there. Doesn't really matter, but we're just going to use it to make our original shape. So let's go ahead and make the triangle. So we're going to start maybe a quarter of the way down on the middle line here. Start there, draw a line going down and to the right. Hold it until it snaps into a perfectly straight line. And we don't want it quite that wide. We want it a little more up and down than side to side. And again, we'll stop about a quarter of the way up from the bottom of our canvas. So right about there, let it go. If you need to make any adjustments, you can click edit shape at the top and you can adjust your lines, the start and end points. And then we are just going to start on this corner here and draw another line going across all the way to the middle. Hold it down. And then touch your finger on the screen to make it a perfectly horizontal line where it meets in the middle. And then let it go. And then again, I'm going to click edit shape here because they kind of overlap a little weird in the corner here. So I'm just going to adjust it until you get a nice crisp little corner, which it's hard to see on the line that has the dot, but on the other side of the symmetry, you can see how nicely it lines up there. So once that is done, I'm just going to click the brush tool to make that go away, and then I'm going to drag my color to fill in the shape. That was easy enough. Now we are going to go to our layer menu, make a duplicate of this layer by sliding left on it and clicking duplicate. Next, on this top layer that was created, we are going to grab the third color on the top row and drag and drop it to fill it in and fill in that whole shape. Click on the arrow tool, make sure it is set to uniform at the bottom, and then make sure snapping is turned on. So we are going to first resize it a little bit using one of the corners. Just kind of resize it until we get like a nice amount of our back color showing, the one that we did originally, the more grayish color. And then we are going to use snapping to hit this vertical yellow line that pops up, because we want it directly in the middle again. And then just kind of try to even out the amount on the top to bottom. It might not be perfectly in the center where the yellow horizontal line is, but it might be close. But you at least want the yellow vertical line for sure. So once yours looks something like this, go ahead and just click the layer menu to deselect it. Make another duplicate of this brown layer that we just made. And then with the one on top selected again, we are going to now fill it in with the fifth color on the top row, the light brown. Again, click the arrow tool so that we can resize it. However, this time we are going to do freeform. We do not want to change the entire size. We want this light brown one lined up with our dark brown one behind it on the bottom. So we are just going to resize it everywhere else. So we're going to resize it in a little bit on both sides and down a little bit on the top until it looks pretty even. So we want it to look pretty even, like the amount on the top and the amount on the sides. We don't want it to look, like it gets thinner from top to bottom there. We want it to look pretty even all the way up and down, but then keep it lined up at the bottom. If yours moved around, you can move it around to adjust it until it snaps. It should snap back till it meets at the bottom of our brown layer behind it. And then you can go ahead and click the arrow tool to deselect it, and it should look something like this now. Okay, so we are just going to continue making our shapes, and then we'll come back and add the textures and whatnot. But next up, we are going to make the door. So let's go ahead and add a new layer. This time we're going to click on the layer, turn it into a clipping mask so that it clips to this light brown layer. So that means that we won't draw on the outside of it. It'll stay within this layer. Click on it and turn on Drawing Assist so that we can use the symmetry still. And then let's go ahead and select this first color on the second row. Same monoline brush, and we are just going to start about halfway up our brown triangle here and a little bit to the right. And we are going to draw a line straight across, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. I'm going to click Edit Shape and just move it over just a little bit to make it a little skinnier, but it should be about right there. Click on your brush again, and then starting in this corner here, we're going to draw a line straight down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly vertical, and have it just go off the bottom of the triangle shape here, and then just draw a line to connect it, and then we can fill it in. Same thing as before, make a duplicate of this layer. The top one that pops up, fill in with this second color on the second row. So select that, fill it in, arrow tool, leave it on freeform, and we are just going to downsize it all the way around just to give us a nice little frame. Go ahead and reline it up in the middle when you see that yellow vertical line, and make sure the outline looks even all the way around. Next, let's add another layer. Again, click on it and turn it into a clipping mask. This time we don't need to set Drawing Assist on, but let's just go ahead and grab this third color on the second row, grab our selection tool, turn it to rectangle, and turn on color fill. And we are just going to draw the little porch in the front. So I'm going to start on the very outside of everything here, just draw up and to the right, and just cover the bottom little sliver of our door and our light brown triangle. Let it go and it'll automatically clip to that. So now your picture should look something like this. Next we will add a new layer on top of all of our layers. Don't set it to a clipping mask, but go ahead and click on it and turn on Drawing Assist again so we can use Symmetry again. We will go back to our first color on the second row here, same monoline brush, and we are going to draw a smaller rectangle towards the top of our cabin here. So just a little bit of the way down from the top and over to the right a little bit in this space here. Let's draw a line and to the left. Hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. Start on that corner, draw it down a ways, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly vertical, leaving a good amount of space between the window and the door. And then draw over again from this corner, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. Click Edit Shape along the way if you need to readjust and connect your lines better. And then let's go ahead and fill that in. And then this time we will grab the fifth color on the second row to fill in our shape there. Just because this is a window, so it's okay for it to have these sharp edges, whereas before I wanted the door to have these rounded edges, which is why we made a duplicate of the shape here instead. And that's also why we've been using the monoline brush to make all of our shapes rather than like the rectangle tool. I just like the look of the rounded edges, which our brush helps us get. Anyway, now that the window is created, we will add another new layer. Click on it, turn on Drawing Assist again, and now we are going to do the same thing on the door, make a little window. So this time let's grab the third color on the second row, same monoline brush, and just do the same thing in the middle of the door. So a little ways down from the top of the red, a horizontal line over. Hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. I'm going to click Edit Shape and make it a little thinner. And then draw down, perfectly vertical line, and draw back over, perfectly horizontal line. And then again, grab the fifth color on the second row to fill in the window there. And lastly for this brush, before we move on to our other details, we are going to draw the doorknob on the door. So let's just add a new layer. No need to turn anything on. Grab the fourth color on the second row. We're going to zoom in here, and with our monoline brush, I'm just going to draw a little dot here. With our monoline brush, I'm just going to draw a little dot here, and then I'm going to lower the size a little bit and draw a little line underneath the door, and then hold it down, touch my finger to the screen to make it a perfectly vertical line, and that's just our little doorknob. Okay, so those are our main shapes. So now we can start adding some details, which will be really fun. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So first of all, while we are working on our windows that we just made, let's go back and finish those off. So I'm first going to click on this one here that is the door window. So we are going to leave Drawing Assist turned on, but we are going to change from Symmetry to a different tool. So let's go to the gear icon again. Drawing Guide should be on, but click Edit Drawing Guide. Switch it to the 2D grid. Make sure Assisted Drawing is turned on in the corner down here, and then click Done. No need to adjust the grid size or anything. We'll just kind of eyeball it for all of our lines here, but leave this layer with Drawing Assist turned on, then grab the third color on the second row. We're going to switch our brush to the dry ink brush under the inking category. With our brush size set to 10%, we're just going to draw some small vertical and horizontal lines on our windows here. So let's just do one down the middle and two horizontal ones. So with assisted drawing turned on with this 2D grid, it just helps you draw perfectly vertical and horizontal lines. And then we're going to do the same thing with this window up here. So let's switch to that layer. Make sure assisted is still turned on, but we're going to switch our color back to this first color in the second row that we used for its border. Same brush, and let's just do the same thing, one down the middle and two going across. Just try to space them out evenly and redo them if you need to. So that is it for the windows. So now we are going to add some texture to the door. And this is where our fancy brush is going to come into play. So let's click on this red door layer. Click on it, turn off Drawing Assist, click on it again and turn on Alpha Lock. Switch to the third color on the second row, and then go ahead and find the special wood grain brush that you should have imported into Procreate that you downloaded. And we are going to use that, and it just draws perfectly vertical wood grain. So set the size to whatever you would like it to be. It doesn't change the size of the grain, it just changes the size of your coverage. But just draw this all over the door without picking your brush up to give it that nice texture. Next, we're going to do a very similar thing. So let's go to this little front walkway area on our cabin here that we created, this little strip down here. Click on that layer, turn on Alpha Lock. It should only be set to clipping mask. Drawing Assist shouldn't be turned on anyway. Grab the fifth color on the top row, the one that we used for our nice light brown triangle here. And then in order to do the wood grain and we want it to be vertical, I'm just going to flip the canvas this way to kind of trick it into and let it kind of snap to trick it into thinking that this is now vertical. And I'm just going to very lightly with this one draw again all over this without picking up my pen. Just add a little bit of texture there. And next we are going to make the wood grain on our main little light brown triangle here. So find that triangle, click on it, turn off Drawing Assist, click on it again, turn on Alpha Lock. And let's grab the sixth color on the top row here, the little bit darker one. And again, with our canvas now tilted back upright, we are going to lightly draw this all over this triangle, again, without picking up our brush, just adding a nice amount of it to that to add some texture. Okay, we will use our 2D grid again now to add some more texture to our main light brown triangle here. So we should still be on this layer. Click on it, turn Drawing Assist on again, even though we just turned it off, but the same color, sixth one on the top row, and we are going to switch back to our dry ink brush. Let's change the size to maybe 25%, and I'm just going to start in the very middle here and draw a line straight up and down, and then I'm just going to go all the way down to the right, making another line every so often as we go, trying to space them out pretty similarly. The grid lines that automatically pop up for me are actually pretty good to use, so I'm just kind of following them. Each vertical line that I see. So you can either adjust your grid size if you want to use a grid or just kind of eyeball it as you go. And that is it for that part. So that's actually it for our main cabin. So now that is all done, we can go ahead and go to our gear icon and turn off the drawing guide so that we don't have to see all those lines anymore. The next thing that we're going to do is add the little chimney. So let's go ahead and add a new layer and then drag it below all of our layers, right above our background layer. And then we are going to grab the third color on the top row and go to the selection tool, set it to rectangle with color fill turned on, and we're going to draw it on the left side here, so just a little ways down from the top and then over. I'm just going to start drawing a rectangle and have it go all the way down and behind the cabin like so. And while we're here, we're just going to give it a little bit of texture. So let's go to the layer menu, click on the layer, turn on Alpha Lock, and then we're going to grab the fourth color on the top row, the darker brown. And for our textures today, we're going to use the to be compressed charcoal under the charcoals category. Set that to maybe 10 to 15%. And I'm just going to lightly drag this all down the left side of the chimney here just to add a little shadow. Okay, while we're at it, let's go ahead and add our stairs in the front because we will do something similar with them. So let's add a new layer on top of all of our layers. Grab the fifth color on the top row here and again use the rectangle tool. So selection tool, set it to rectangle and color fill. And we will just draw a small, skinny rectangle, a little bit wider than our door. And it's just going to go right on the front and bottom part of our outer triangle here. Let that go. Click on the arrow tool and make sure that snapping is turned on. And then just make sure to snap it to the vertical yellow line there. And then you can leave it. Let's add a shadow to it too. So go to your layer menu, click on this layer, turn on alpha lock, grab the 6th color on the top row, same to be compressed charcoal brush, maybe drop the size a little bit to like 10% and just lightly drag this across the bottom to add a little shadow there. Then let's go ahead and go to our layer menu again, make a duplicate of this layer, click the arrow tool, set it to freeform, make it a little bit wider just on the side, and then drag it below it and center it again on the yellow line, leaving a little bit of space in between, maybe a little bit more because we're going to add some snow on top. So about there. And then do the same thing. So another duplicate of this one now. Arrow tool, freeform, drag it to be a little bit wider, and then drag it below and center it again and just try to space it out a little bit evenly. And I do want a little bit more room on the bottom, so I'm just going to move them both up just a smidge because we want a little bit of room to make our little footprints down there. About like that should be good. Okay, next we are going to add our trees. So our trees are going to go behind our cabin, add a new layer, drag it below all of our layers again. If you want to make it easier, we can do the chimney, slide right on all of the other little cabin layers, all the way up to the door knob. And you can group those together and then minimize that group with the arrow there just so that it's kind of out of the way. While I'm doing that and kind of organizing, I will snap these 3 step layers together so that they're all on one layer since I have them already organized how I want them. So that just saves us some layers and kind of helps us stay organized. Anyway, back to this layer here, our new layer behind all of our other layers. We are going to first draw the trunks of the trees, just like we drew the chimney. So let's grab the 3rd color on the top row, use the rectangle color fill tool, and we are just going to draw 3 rectangles in the background. So let's just draw one here, very skinny vertical rectangles. We're going to cover most of them with the branches, and our trees will be a little bit lower than the sky. So, don't draw them up too high. And this one will go a little bit behind the cabin. And then we're going to draw maybe 2 over here. I'll draw one like right behind the cabin. I'll draw one right here next to the cabin. And then another one a little bit further back. Somewhere about like that. They don't have to be perfect, but make sure they're pretty skinny. And then click on this layer on the layer menu, turn on alpha lock. We are going to shade them just a little bit. So grab the 4th color on the top row, the darker one. Should be on our to be compressed charcoal brush still. Add about 10 to 15%. And just lightly run up and down the left side of our tree trunks. Add a little bit of shadow. And now we are going to draw the main part of the tree. So let's add a new layer on top of this one. And we are going to grab the 1st color on the 3rd row. And the brush that we're going to use for this is the Evolve brush under the drawing category. I have it set to about 8 to 10%. And I am just going to start on this very right one here. And I'm just going to start at the top and on the right side. And I'm just going to go in a downward and to the right motion all the way down. Picking up my brush here and there, making it, thick in the middle so that it all connects, and then kind of varying how far out I go and how thick I make the end branches. This one can go off the side of the screen here towards the bottom, so it stays in closer at the top and then gets wider down as we go. And then I'll stop it about here on the main trunk. But again, filling in most of the middle pretty good. Kind of having some little straggler branches come off. And then we're going to do the same thing on the left side, going down into the left. Again, staying pretty close to the middle at first and then going further and further out. Leaving some spaces here and there. And then stopping about there. And then in the middle even we'll have some that kind of just go like straight down right at the bottom there. Make a nice little pointy top at the top. So your main shape should look something like this. Then we are going to grab the second color on the third row, and we are just going to add some little kind of shadows. So following that same kind of pattern, going out and to the left, and then even in the middle, doing some that are just kind of straight up and down. Do some lightly, some darker. As you get towards the bottom, you can fit a few more in. Something like this. And then we're going to grab the third color on this last row here, the bright white, and we're going to focus that first right on the top, not that thick. Right on the top, not that thick, but very lightly add a lot of this right on the top. And again, following that same kind of pattern, sticking mostly like towards the top of our outside branches if you can, to kind of look at like the snow is sitting on top of them. But it can just be pretty random too, just to add some nice snow color. So I'm just adding some really, really light ones just to really like increase the texture, because there will be snow all throughout the tree that you can't really see sometimes. And we're just going to do the same thing for each tree. So I'm going to add them all in a new layer just so that I can adjust them later if I need to. But you could essentially add them all on the same layer. But let's add a new layer and grab our first brush, or our first color again. Same brush though, same size and everything, and we'll just start again. And obviously this one will go over our tree behind it now in certain areas, like right here. And then this part will go behind the cabin a little bit. And then again, switch to our darker color here, the second one on the last row. a white one. And then lastly, we will add another new layer and do the same exact thing for our very left tree over here. And then I just resized it a little to make it match the other ones a little bit better. Okay, so now we will add the rest of our snow to the background, like the hill and the snow on top of our cabin and everything. So to add the hill, we will do that first. So let's add a new layer, drag it below all of our layers behind our trees and everything. This same light color that we were using for the treetops, the third one on the last row, keep that selected, and we will switch back to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab really quickly just to draw our main hill. So we'll have it be about halfway through our canvas, about halfway behind our cabin, So I'm just going to draw a little wavy line on the background. You can't really see it behind everything, but it's there all the way left to right going off the canvas so that we can fill it in underneath. Then we will add a new layer on top of that one, and we will grab this fourth color on the last row, and we're just going to draw some little ribbons again to kind of create some shadows essentially and some snowdrifts. So we're going to start, we don't want anything up front. We're going to start everything behind the cabin area. So I'm just going to draw some little ribbons essentially. So 2 lines that I'll fill in between. Then I'll do another one. Doing it the best you can since you can't really see it very well all the way around, but just 2 little ribbons like that to kind of add some depth. And then we are going to grab the eraser tool and we're going to switch the eraser tool brush. So open up the eraser menu and we are going to switch that also to our to be compressed charcoal. And let's bring the size to like 30%. And I'm just going to lightly run this all through the gray areas that I just made to kind of give it more of like a snowy texture. A little bit. Nothing too crazy, you don't want to get rid of it all, but just kind of give it some texture like that. Next, let's add a new layer. Grab this same color, the 4th one on the 2nd row that we just used to make our ribbons, but we are going to switch our brush now to the to be compressed charcoal. Add about 20%, and I'm just going to lightly run this all up in front of the stairs here, the steps here, kind of in a triangular motion to match them going off the canvas to add a little bit of texture there. Then grab the 5th color on the last row and just do the same thing, concentrating right in the middle, just to add a little bit more variation so it kind of gets lighter as we go out and then it disappears completely. So add that right there. Next, add another new layer, and we're going to draw the footprints. So let's grab first this 5th color on the last row, switch back to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab, and we're just going to make 4 footprint shaped little ovals. They don't have to be perfect. We'll have them go like this way, then that way, then this way. Then maybe this one will be off the screen, something like this. Make them all roughly the same, size, like they look like they could have came from the same foot, something like that. Click on this layer, turn on alpha lock, switch to the 6th color on the last row, now the very darkest gray down there, and then we're going to switch again back to our to be compressed charcoal. Drop this to maybe like 5%, pretty small, and we're just going to lightly draw around in a circular motion this top part of each of the footprints just to add a little bit of a shadow there. Next, add a new layer, drag it below this footprint layer but above our light gray layer that we made before. Switch our color to this bright white, the 3rd one on the last row. Same to be compressed charcoal, same size, and I'm just going to kind of outline the footprint with this brush to kind of add a little highlight there. Do it to each one, so you should just be able to see it peeking out right behind our footprint. And this just adds like a nice little highlight and a little depth to it to really make it pop and make it look a little bit more 3D. So now we're going to add the main snow layer with all the snow on top of our cabin and our steps and everything. So let's go ahead and add a new layer on top of all of our other layers. Grab this same bright white color, the 3rd one on the last row. And this time we are going to switch back to our dry ink brush under the inking category. Let's just keep that at about 20 to 25%. And let's just start with the top of the cabin here. So I'm just going to start in the top middle, and I'm just going to draw a wavy line going down, kind of following the triangular shape of our cabin here. And then I'm just going to kind of round it at the bottom and have it go up, and then have it be another wavy line going over this main part of our cabin, just to kind of mess up that line there because it's sitting on our roof. And then just fill it in all the way down as you go. With little pockets here and there. And then like when I get to the bottom here, I just kind of make it a lot flatter going out in front of this like ribbon. And then let's go ahead and do the same thing on the other side here. Obviously we still want a good part of our gray like main outside triangle layer showing, but we just want to cover some of it with our snow. And then again, fill in the middle parts all the way down. And then we are going to add a small one in the front of our gray layer here at the bottom to kind of show where the snow would be built up there. Stop when you hit this first step, and then continue on the other side here. Then we're going to add a layer on top of our little porch layer here, going in front of the door a little bit also. But maybe it would be like pretty thin right in front of the door and then a little higher up on the sides. And then we will also add some onto the steps here. Just following the top of the step and then adding a little bit more where, you can only really see it on the top step in front of the house, but then the other ones at least add it just right on the top of the board to add a little texture, and, you can kind of see a little bit because of the little gray in the background that we added. After that, we will add the smoke coming out of the chimney. So let's go ahead and add a new layer. Let's drag it below all of our house layers above our tree layer. Same bright white color, third one on the last row. We will grab the monoline brush again. And I am just going to start, we're behind the chimney layer, so I'm just going to start underneath the chimney layer, a little bit in from the left side, and draw a line going out, like in a swoop like that. I'm going to grab the arrow tool and move it to the left just a little bit. I want to see just a little bit of the chimney sticking out from the side, but not that much. And then same thing on the right, a little bit in from the right, and make another swoopy line out like this. Connect it on the bottom, and then go ahead and fill that in. And then, just like we did earlier with the snow, we're going to use our eraser, but have the eraser set to the to be compressed charcoal. Set it to maybe 25%. And we are just going to run this all over the smoke that we drew here, and then focus mainly towards the inside, leaving the edges a little bit more untouched, so they look a little bit sharper. Kind of like that. And then we will go ahead and do the final layer, which is the snow in front of everything. So let's add a new layer on the very top. Same bright white color, but we're going to switch our brush to the driven snow brush under the elements category. Set it to just 100%, and then just go ahead and drag that all over the screen to add some snow. Once that is done, that is the end of our drawing today. So I hope you had fun. If you did, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more tutorials from me in the future. If you would like to share your drawing on Instagram, I would love to see it, so go ahead and post it and then tag me so that I can check it out. While you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so that you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching!